The planet Azurnine was unlike anything humans had ever seen. Its skies shimmered with deep shades of violet and gold, and massive crystal spires rose from the ground like the teeth of a sleeping giant. Rivers of liquid light flowed through valleys, casting colors across the forests below. It was beautiful, mysterious, and dangerous, but for Princess Lyra, it was home. She walked along the balcony of the royal palace, her long silver hair catching the sunlight as she watched her city below. Lyra had always been strong-willed. Her people admired her intelligence, her courage, and her fierce determination to protect Azurnine. But she also had a reputation for being unyielding. She trusted few, and when it came to outsiders, her answer was always no. Humans are unpredictable, she often said to her advisors. We cannot afford to let them into our world. Yet today, her advisors whispered nervously behind her. Princess, the humans have arrived, one said, bowing low. Their ships orbit the northern hemisphere. They wish to meet you. Lyra turned her piercing violet eyes toward the horizon. She felt a strange mix of curiosity and irritation. Humans. She had heard about them through ancient transmissions collected by her people. They were explorers, engineers, warriors, and sometimes fools. Their history was long and full of contradictions. Some had built great civilizations, others had destroyed them. We will meet them, she said finally, her voice steady and commanding. But I will make it clear, I do not trust them. I will not be swayed. On the other side of the planet, the human delegation prepared to descend. Captain Daniel Hart stood at the edge of the landing platform, his boots heavy against the metallic floor. He was a man in his mid-30s, calm and composed, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. He had faced dangerous missions before, but something about Azurnine made even him pause. The beauty of the planet was overwhelming, yet he sensed a quiet tension in the air, as if the world itself held its breath. Daniel glanced at his team. Engineers, linguists, and scientists moved with careful precision, checking equipment and adjusting sensors. Their mission was clear: establish contact with the alien leadership, exchange knowledge, and ensure both sides could cooperate. Remember, Daniel said, his voice low but firm. We are guests here. We show respect, we show patience, and we show that we can be trusted. One mistake, and this mission could fail before it even begins. His team nodded. They trusted him, and in turn, he trusted them. But Daniel also knew that the greatest challenge would not be navigating the alien technology or strange environment. It would be winning the trust of Princess Lyra. The palace was vast and imposing, built of white crystal and polished metal. Its towers reached high into the sky, reflecting the light of Azurnine's twin suns. Daniel's small team was escorted through corridors filled with strange glowing symbols, each marking the history and achievements of Lyra's people. Every step they took was watched carefully by sentries, their expressions unreadable. Finally, they entered the central chamber. Princess Lyra stood on a raised platform, surrounded by advisors and royal guards. Her posture was straight, her expression serious, and her eyes locked on the humans with an intensity that made Daniel feel like he was under examination. Lyra spoke first, her voice calm but firm. You are far from your home planet, human. Why have you come here? Daniel bowed slightly. Princess Lyra, we come in peace. We wish to learn from your people and share knowledge that may benefit both our civilizations. Lyra's eyes narrowed. Peace is not a word I take lightly. Many have come before you, promising friendship, yet they brought destruction. What makes you different? Daniel met her gaze steadily. I cannot speak for those who came before. All I can offer is my honesty and my actions. I will not ask for trust, I will earn it. The princess studied him for a long moment, then turned away, signaling her advisors to speak. They discussed logistics, trade, and safety, but Lyra remained silent, her attention still partially on Daniel. She noticed small things, the way he moved carefully, the respect he showed her people, and the quiet confidence in his voice. Days passed, and the humans began to assist with various projects around the city. Daniel coordinated with local engineers, helping to stabilize energy grids and repair infrastructure damaged by natural storms. He did not seek recognition, simply ensuring that the work was done well and safely. Lyra observed from a distance. She watched him interact with her citizens, humans and aliens alike. He listened to their concerns, offered solutions, and never showed impatience or superiority. Slowly, she felt a shift inside her. For the first time, a human seemed more than just an outsider. He was capable, kind, and honorable, yet her pride remained. She reminded herself that no matter how impressive he appeared, humans were unpredictable. They could not be trusted fully. She turned her attention to other matters, the training of her guards, the upcoming ceremonial challenge that would test her leadership, and the constant vigilance needed to protect her people. One evening, the skies above Azura 9 darkened with swirling clouds of plasma energy. The city's alarms blared as lightning-like storms tore across the spires, threatening buildings and lives. Citizens screamed as strong winds and bursts of light tore through streets. Without hesitation, Daniel and his team sprang into action. He organized rescue squads, guided civilians to safety, and coordinated repairs to critical systems. Even as the storm raged, he moved calmly, his voice clear and commanding, giving instructions that saved dozens of lives. Lyra watched from her balcony, her heart pounding. She had trained for such events, but Daniel's courage and efficiency were extraordinary. He did not hesitate, he did not falter, and he did not seek attention. He acted solely to protect others. When the storm finally subsided, the city lay battered but largely intact. Daniel had ensured the safety of her most trusted aides and key infrastructure. Lyra felt a strange gratitude, one she had never admitted to anyone, not even herself. She approached him the next morning, her expression unreadable. "You acted well during the storm," she said, her tone careful. "But do not think that changes my decision. You are still an outsider. You are still not trusted." Daniel smiled faintly, bowing his head. "I do not seek trust, princess. Only the chance to prove that humans can be honorable, even here." Lyra turned away, hiding the faint warmth that had touched her heart. She had seen bravery, patience, and selflessness, yet she could not allow herself to be swayed. Not yet, but deep down, she knew something had changed. She found herself thinking about the human captain when she did not want to. She noticed how he treated her people, how he moved with care, and how he never asked for reward. It made her question her assumptions, and for the first time, she felt uncertainty about her own no. The days that followed would test both of them politically, socially, and personally. But one thing was clear: the arrival of the humans had set events into motion that would change Azura 9 forever. And even Princess Lyra could not predict where her heart might lead. Weeks had passed since the humans arrived on Azura 9, and the presence of Captain Daniel Hart and his team had become impossible to ignore. While Princess Lyra continued to maintain her stern exterior, she could no longer deny the unusual competence and courage of this human. Everywhere she looked, Daniel was quietly helping her people, repairing damaged buildings, restoring energy grids, or guiding inexperienced workers. Still, Lyra's pride would not allow her to soften completely. She reminded herself daily that humans were unpredictable, that their motives were unclear, and that her first duty was to protect her planet. Yet, even as she repeated these warnings to herself, she noticed small changes in her thoughts. She found herself observing Daniel when she thought she was too busy. She listened closely to his words, noticing his calm logic and thoughtful suggestions. The turning point came when the Council of Elders announced the annual trial of leadership, a ceremony that tested the skill, judgment, and wisdom of the ruling princess. Every citizen watched, and the court expected Lyra to succeed alone, without relying on outsiders. The trial involved 3 stages: a test of strategy, a test of courage, and a test of wisdom. Failure was rare, but could not be ignored. Lyra prepared for the trial with focus and intensity. She practiced combat maneuvers, studied tactical simulations, and memorized historical scenarios to anticipate every possible challenge. Yet, unknown to her, the council had quietly included Daniel's advice in the logistical planning of the ceremony, curious if his human methods could be integrated. The first stage began with a simulated crisis, a sudden energy disruption threatening a section of the city. Lyra was to restore balance using her knowledge and leadership. She moved confidently, giving instructions and adjusting the plans, but unexpectedly, the system began to fail due to an unseen technical flaw. Panic briefly flashed across the audience. Citizens and officials murmured, noting her hesitation. From the side, Daniel watched carefully. He saw the flaw immediately and moved closer, quietly suggesting adjustments to stabilize the system. Lyra's eyes caught his, but she refused to accept help. Her pride demanded she solve the problem alone. Yet the flaw worsened, and suddenly, she had no choice. Reluctantly, she nodded to Daniel. Together, they corrected the error. The system hummed back to life, and the audience erupted in applause. Lyra felt a mixture of relief, frustration, and something unfamiliar. The second stage was a test of courage. Lyra was tasked with retrieving a symbolic crystal from the edge of the city's towering cliffs, where plasma storms frequently raged. Traditionally, no leader relied on anyone else for this test. As she approached the cliff, the wind howled and the storm threatened to knock her off balance. Her guards were ready to intervene, but she refused their help suddenly. A strong gust caught her off guard, and she nearly fell. Daniel, who had been observing from below to ensure safety, jumped forward instinctively, catching her hand in midair and pulling her to solid ground. The crowd gasped. Lyra felt her heart pound, not from fear, but from the sudden awareness of Daniel's presence and care. "You should not have risked yourself," she said sharply, trying to hide her emotions. "I could not let you fall," Daniel replied calmly, his eyes steady. "No one should be harmed when there is a way to prevent it." Lyra turned away, hiding her cheeks flushed by gratitude and surprise. She reminded herself that the trial was not about humans. It was about her leadership. Yet the incident planted a seed of doubt in her long-held belief that humans were untrustworthy. The third and final stage of the trial was a test of wisdom. Lyra was presented with a dilemma, a decision that could affect thousands of citizens. Two choices were laid out, each with risks and consequences. The council watched carefully, expecting her to choose quickly and confidently. Lyra paused, considering the options. Her instincts guided her, but she noticed small details, signals that others had missed. Subtle cues from the environment, and even the reactions of her people. For the first time, she sought input, not from her advisors, but from Daniel. She asked quietly, "What would you do in my place?" Daniel did not give a simple answer. Instead, he analyzed the situation, showing her possibilities and consequences without dictating the decision. He respected her authority while offering clarity. Lyra listened carefully, weighing his insights alongside her own instincts. Finally, she made the choice. The council nodded with approval. The decision was wise, just, and fair. After the trial, the citizens celebrated Lyra's success, and even the council acknowledged her judgment. But behind her composed expression, Lyra's mind was racing. Daniel had been there at every stage, observing, guiding, and acting without arrogance. He had not forced himself into her decisions, yet his presence had been invaluable. Later, in the quiet of her chambers, Lyra reflected on the events of the day. She thought of the storm, the cliffs, and the final decision. She admitted to herself that the human captain had changed something inside her. She admired his courage, his wisdom, and his unwavering calm. Yet, she also struggled with a new emotion she did not understand, a feeling that made her heart respond. Even as her mind insisted no. Meanwhile, Daniel remained unaware of the depth of her inner conflict. He focused on his work, helping to restore parts of the city damaged during training exercises and storms. He treated Lyra with respect, never pushing for trust, friendship, or admiration. His actions spoke louder than words, and slowly, those actions began to chip away at her carefully constructed barriers outside the palace. Not everyone welcomed the human presence. A faction of Lyra's advisors whispered in corridors and council chambers. They viewed Daniel's growing influence as dangerous, arguing that the princess was placing her people at risk. By allowing outsiders to participate in internal affairs, you must remind her of the dangers. One advisor said, "Humans are clever, yes, but they are unpredictable. She should not depend on them. Another advisor shook their head. The princess is wise, and she will make her own decisions. Interference could backfire. Lyra overheard the discussions but said nothing. She knew her advisors spoke from caution and loyalty. Yet she also felt a strange desire to act according to her own judgment, not theirs. Daniel's example had awakened something in her, a willingness to consider new ideas, to see strength in unexpected places, and perhaps even to trust. One evening, as the twin suns set and bathed the palace in a warm golden glow, Lyra walked the balcony alone. She looked toward the human camp in the distance, where lights flickered and shadows moved. Daniel was there, quietly observing the city, ensuring that all was safe. She felt a pang of admiration mixed with something she could not name. Her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of approaching footsteps. One of her advisors bowed before her. "Princess, the humans are offering to help with the upcoming defense drills. They wish to share their techniques." Lyra nodded slowly. She could accept help without admitting her feelings, she reminded herself. And yet, she found herself curious. Perhaps there was value in their perspective, in their experience. Perhaps this human captain, through his actions, had shown her something her own people could not. That night, as she lay in her chambers, Lyra could not stop thinking about Daniel. She recalled the trial, the cliffs, the storms, and the calm way he had handled every challenge. Her pride still urged her to say no, to maintain distance. But her heart whispered a different answer, a soft, persistent yes. She did not act on it yet. She was a princess, and her duty came first. But for the first time in her life, Lyra wondered if the rules she had always followed might need to change. She wondered if a human and outsider could inspire something deeper, something beyond admiration or respect. The arrival of humans had set a chain of events in motion, and Princess Lyra realized that nothing on Azuranine would ever be the same again. The skies above Azuranine were dark with thick, swirling clouds. A distant hum of energy filled the air, warning of an approaching threat. Scouts had reported an unknown alien warship entering the planet's orbit. Its technology was unlike anything Lyra's people had ever faced. Panic began to ripple through the city, and even the bravest citizens felt fear. Princess Lyra stood on the balcony of the royal palace, her silver hair whipping in the wind. Her violet eyes narrowed as she surveyed the horizon. "This is serious," she said softly to herself. "We cannot fight them alone." Advisors rushed to her side, voices overlapping with suggestions and warnings. Lyra listened carefully, but she already had a plan. She turned to the human captain, who had been observing from the edge of the courtyard. Daniel Hart stepped forward, his posture calm and commanding, as if he had already calculated every possible outcome. "Princess," he said, his voice steady, "we can help. Your defenses are strong, but we need coordination. If we act together, we can minimize the damage." Lyra hesitated. Her pride urged her to act alone, to show that Azuranine did not need outsiders to defend itself. Yet she also knew the city's survival depended on quick, smart action. She nodded once, acknowledging his proposal. "Very well, work with my forces, human. But do not presume you lead." Daniel smiled faintly. "I do not presume. I only offer my skills." The next hours were chaotic. Citizens ran for safety as the warship unleashed pulses of energy that struck the city's defenses. Alarms rang out, lighting the sky with warning flashes. Lyra and Daniel moved through the palace command center, coordinating troops and defense systems. Every decision was critical. Every moment mattered. Daniel suggested positioning energy shields in areas most vulnerable to attack, explaining the mechanics in clear, simple terms. Lyra adjusted the deployment, combining his methods with her people's traditional strategies. Together, they formed a plan that maximized defense while minimizing risk. As the first wave of attacks hit, Daniel moved into the field with Lyra's guards. The streets were filled with chaos, citizens screaming, energy blasts tearing through buildings, and debris falling everywhere. Yet Daniel remained calm, issuing instructions, rescuing trapped civilians, and protecting those who could not move. Lyra followed closely, her combat skills unmatched, but even she could not cover every threat. When a blast of energy struck a collapsed structure near her, Daniel reacted instinctively, pulling her out of harm's way. Their eyes met in that instant, and Lyra felt her heart pound. She had always known humans were strong, but seeing him risk his life for her, without hesitation, made her emotions surge. "You could have been hurt," she said sharply, trying to hide her feelings. "I only acted to keep you safe," Daniel replied. His calm, steady gaze did not waver, even as danger surrounded them. "That is all I can do." Lyra turned away, trying to regain her composure. But the warmth in her chest would not be ignored. The battle continued into the night. Daniel coordinated rescue teams, repaired damaged energy conduits, and fought alongside Lyra when enemy forces breached the city gates. He never shouted orders, never sought glory, and never hesitated. Every action was deliberate, focused on saving lives. Lyra began to notice the small, quiet ways he led. He did not command with arrogance. He suggested, he guided, and he acted where needed. The citizens and guards responded to him naturally, trusting his judgment even without formal authority. Slowly, Lyra's heart shifted. She had always valued strength and courage, but now she realized that wisdom, humility, and care were just as powerful as the night wore on. Lyra found herself side by side with Daniel on a rooftop, directing a squad to repel attackers. Sparks flew from the damaged energy shields, and wind tore at their clothing. She glanced at him, noticing the calm determination in his face. For a brief moment, she allowed herself to imagine what it would be like to fight by his side in any situation, not just as a leader and an outsider, but as someone who trusted him completely. Then, disaster struck. A massive enemy drone hovered above, firing energy blasts indiscriminately. Lyra's squad was caught in its path. Without thinking, Daniel leapt in front of her, taking the full force of a blast. The shockwave threw him to the ground, and for a second, time seemed to freeze. Lyra's heart leapt into her throat. She rushed to him, pulling him to his feet. "You could have died," she shouted, her voice trembling with a mix of anger and fear. "I'm fine," Daniel said, brushing off dust and debris, his usual calm returning. "No harm done. Now we must protect the others." Lyra stared at him, her mind spinning. This human, this outsider, had risked himself without hesitation. And yet, he did not boast or demand gratitude. His bravery was pure, selfless, and unwavering. After the battle, the city lay in ruins but survived. The citizens were exhausted but alive. Emergency crews worked tirelessly to restore order. Guided by Daniel and Lyra, she walked among her people, seeing the gratitude and relief in their eyes. But her attention kept returning to the human captain. That evening, she found him quietly repairing communication relays on the palace grounds. He moved carefully, his hands steady, focused entirely on his work. She approached him silently, observing the determination and care he put into every action. "You did well today," she said softly, her usual sternness replaced by something gentler. Daniel looked up and smiled faintly. "We all did what was necessary. I only hope no one was harmed unnecessarily." Lyra hesitated. For weeks, she had refused to acknowledge the effect he had on her, but now, seeing him calm and focused, she could not deny it. Her heart had begun to answer questions her mind refused to ask. "You risked yourself for me," she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "I would do the same for any of your people," Daniel replied. His eyes met hers, steady and honest. No one should be left behind when there is a chance to save them. Lyra felt a warmth she had never experienced before. Pride, admiration, and something deeper swirled together inside her. She wanted to pull away, to return to her rigid no, but her heart refused. For the first time, she realized that strength was not just physical or strategic, it was moral, emotional, and personal. In the days that followed, Lyra and Daniel worked closely together to rebuild the city. Each challenge they faced strengthened their bond. He never intruded into her personal space, never demanded trust, yet his presence comforted her. She found herself listening more closely to his suggestions, valuing his perspective, and secretly anticipating his next action. One afternoon, While surveying the city from the palace balcony, Lyra spoke quietly. "You have changed things here, human. More than you know." Daniel tilted his head, curious but cautious. "I only acted as anyone should. I did not come to change anything." Lyra smiled faintly, a rare and genuine expression. "Yet you have. I cannot deny it. You have shown me a side of humans I never expected, and perhaps a side of myself as well." Daniel nodded, his expression thoughtful. "Then I am glad my actions mattered. That is all I can do, act with purpose, and hope it helps." That evening, as the twin suns set, Lyra stood alone, watching the horizon. She thought of the battle, the risks, and Daniel's unwavering courage. Her pride still whispered no, yet her heart answered yes. She did not understand the feeling fully, but she felt it undeniably. The princess realized that the human captain had become more than an ally. He had become a symbol of bravery, wisdom, and care. He had shown her that courage could exist not only in combat, but in every thoughtful, selfless action. And for the first time, she wondered if it was possible to trust, to respect, and to admire someone completely, even a human. Azura 9 had survived the attack, but its people had learned something even more important. Sometimes, strength comes not from isolation, tradition, or fear, but from cooperation, understanding, and the courage to act with honor. And Princess Lyra, who had always said no, felt the stirrings of a yes, though she would not yet admit it aloud. The bond between the human captain and the alien princess had begun, quietly but firmly, like the roots of a tree growing through solid rock. Neither could deny it, and neither could foresee the trials that awaited them. But one thing was certain: the events of this night would change both of their lives forever. The morning sun rose over Azura 9, casting its golden light across the city. The ruins from the recent attack still smoked in places, but the citizens moved with renewed energy, rebuilding their homes and lives. Princess Lyra walked among them, her mind heavy with thought. The city had survived, her people were safe, and yet her heart was restless. Captain Daniel Hart was already at work, directing teams to repair energy grids and stabilize buildings. His calm, methodical presence had become a constant in the city, a source of hope for the citizens and for Lyra herself. She watched him from a distance, admiring his dedication, humility, and courage. For weeks, she had resisted her feelings, insisting that humans were outsiders and not to be trusted. But now, after battle and cooperation, she could no longer ignore the truth. Lyra's advisors approached her, their expressions serious. "Princess," one said, "the council expects a decision. Will the humans remain as allies, or must we send them away?" Lyra turned to them, her violet eyes clear and unwavering. "They have proven themselves," she said, "not just in battle, but in their respect for our people and our ways. They will remain as friends and allies." The advisors murmured among themselves, surprised by her decision. Some were cautious, some were curious, but none could deny the wisdom in her words. Lyra, however, did not care about their reactions. Her focus was elsewhere. That evening, Lyra found Daniel working on the palace's energy shields. The sun's last rays reflected off his features, highlighting his calm determination. She approached him quietly, unsure of what to say, but knowing she needed to. "Captain Hart," she began, her voice soft, "you have done more than I could have imagined. You have helped save my city, guided my people, and changed my perspective." Daniel looked up, surprised by the emotion in her voice. "Princess, I only acted as I believed was right. Your people's safety came first. That was all I could do." Lyra took a deep breath, her heart beating rapidly. "You have shown me courage, wisdom, and care, things I never expected from an outsider. And you have shown me something about myself, perhaps about what it means to trust and to see beyond pride." Daniel's eyes met hers, steady and understanding. "I did not come to change you, Princess. I only wish to help. If something in my actions has inspired trust, then I am honored." Lyra felt a warmth spread through her chest. She had resisted for so long, clinging to duty and pride. But now she realized that her heart had been answering in its own way. She stepped closer, finally allowing herself to acknowledge the feelings she had tried to suppress. "You have made my heart answer yes," she whispered, almost to herself. Daniel's expression softened. He understood without needing more words. He had seen the change in her actions, her decisions, and now, finally, in her voice. The bond between them, forged through courage, respect, and shared struggle, had reached its full strength over the next days. Lyra and Daniel worked side by side, not just as leaders and allies, but as equals who respected and learned from each other. Citizens watched them, noticing the quiet understanding that passed between the princess and the human captain. There were no grand declarations, no rushing gestures, only a steady partnership built on trust, courage, and mutual admiration. The council observed as well, and while some were wary, even they could not ignore the positive effect of the humans' presence. The city had stabilized faster than anyone expected. Morale was high, and citizens felt a renewed sense of hope. Lyra's decision to allow humans to remain had been wise, and Daniel's consistent behavior had proved invaluable. One afternoon, while walking through the newly rebuilt gardens of the palace, Lyra spoke to Daniel privately. "You have done more than I can express," she said. "Not just with your actions, but with your heart. You have shown me that strength is not only in power or strategy, but in care, humility, and courage. And I trust you completely now." Daniel nodded, a small smile on his face. "Thank you, Princess. That means more to me than you know. I only wish to continue helping in any way I can." Lyra looked at him, her expression thoughtful. "It is not only help I seek. I want your guidance, your perspective, and your presence. You have become a part of this world, and a part of my life." Daniel's gaze softened. "I am honored, Princess. I only hope I can live up to your trust and respect." The final step came when the city held a celebration for the recovery and the bravery shown during the attack. Citizens filled the streets, cheering and waving. Lyra stood on the balcony, observing the scene, and Daniel by her side. She felt a calm confidence she had never known before. The trials, the challenges, and the battles had shown her the value of cooperation, courage, and trust. And now, she realized, the heart had its own wisdom, sometimes stronger than the mind. During the celebration, Lyra made a quiet decision. She turned to Daniel and extended her hand. "Captain Hart," she said, her voice steady but warm, "you have earned a place here, among my people and in my heart. Will you accept it?" Daniel took her hand gently, bowing his head slightly. "Princess Lyra, I accept with honor. I will do everything I can to protect your people, your world, and our bond." A murmur of approval passed through the crowd. Citizens watched in awe as the human captain and the alien princess stood together, united by respect, courage, and a shared vision for the future. There was no need for grand speeches or proclamations. Their actions, their bond, and their trust spoke louder than words ever could. In the days that followed, Azura 9 thrived. The humans continued to work alongside the citizens, helping to rebuild and improve the city's defenses. Lyra and Daniel met regularly to discuss strategies, innovations, and plans for future cooperation. Each meeting, each action, deepened their connection. Lyra had changed. She had seen that strength was not just about pride or isolation, but about courage, humility, and the willingness to trust others. Daniel had shown her that humans could be brave, honorable, and selfless. And more importantly, he had shown her the power of the heart, how it could inspire, guide, and answer even when the mind resisted. At night, as the twin moons rose over Azura 9, Lyra often found herself standing on the palace balcony with Daniel, watching the stars. They spoke quietly of their hopes, dreams, and the possibilities for their worlds. She no longer felt the rigid need to say no. Instead, she allowed her heart to guide her, embracing trust, admiration, and the quiet stirrings of love. And so, the princess who once said no had finally found her answer. The human captain had not only helped save her city and her people, but had awakened something deeper within her, a willingness to trust, to hope, and to embrace the possibility of connection across worlds. Azura 9 looked toward a bright future. Two civilizations, once distant and wary of each other, now shared knowledge, courage, and understanding. And at the center of it all, Princess Lyra and Captain Daniel Hart stood side by side, united by respect, admiration, and the answer their hearts had quietly given, yes. The bond they shared was not built on words alone, nor on promises of grandeur. It was forged in courage, proven in action, and strengthened by trust. And it was a bond that would guide Azura 9 into a future full of hope, collaboration, and the enduring power of the human spirit. For Lyra, the journey had begun with a simple no, but seeing the human before her, his courage, his wisdom, his selfless care had made her heart answer yes. And in that answer lay the promise of a new era, where courage and compassion could bridge worlds, and where even the proudest hearts could learn to trust and to hope.